Okay, so we got hard eight. Well, I wouldn't exactly say I give it a hard eight, but I still give it a good 7.5. I mean, so it's Paul Thomas Anderson, directed in well, it was directed a long time ago. I'm trying to get my words together. 1996. Got a great cast. I mean, you got Gwyneth Paltrow when she wasn't really a hard person to work with because she got fired from Avengers 2 because she was hard to work with, so they only reference her in the movie and she doesn't make an appearance at all. Um, so basically, you have this really good cast, like I say, and I mean Samuel L. Jackson sort of coming off from Pulp Fiction only a few years before that, and you got that guy from Rush Hour, the old guy. I don't remember what his name is, but he's that detective or sergeant, whatever. Yeah, and John C. Riley, who looks really young. So you got this collection of stories, and they basically sort of interweave a bit like Pulp Fiction. Not quite as good. I mean, it's still very good. It's not obviously masterclass Pulp Fiction was, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I think there's a lot to like there, and it's not his best work. Paul Thomas Anderson has that sort of thing that he has that thing that he's very strong as a filmmaker. I mean, I can't really think of anything particularly negative to say about him. The only thing is, I didn't really like There Will Be Blood, and I know that's probably gonna get me some hate, but I'm sorry. Just for me, I thought that film was pretty boring, and the only good bit was at the end with the milkshake scene. That was a great scene. The rest of the film, I just thought was very flat and boring. Um, I mean, apart from that, he's done very good work. Obviously, Inherent Vice and The Master and Boogie Nights. I mean, you know, all those films are so great, and they have a certain style to them that's very Paul Thomas Anderson. And I feel this film is in line with that style because you kind of see like real flashes of it in this movie because you got like the stuff about the casinos and sort of outside of Las Vegas or the main sort of Las Vegas, so it's in Reno, so it's kind of a smaller thing. And obviously in this film, it obviously must have been made for a really small budget because there's only four actors really in the whole film. You see some people in the background, but pretty much the whole film is just the four characters and then that's it. Um, I think it works incredibly well, the way they interact with each other. They have really good chemistry. I mean, John C. Riley and the guy, the old sergeant from Rush Hour, they've got really, really good chemistry. And obviously, it goes to some places you don't really expect, which is nice because um, it's always cool that it's always refreshing. I mean to say, yeah, that it's not what you expect. I mean, I think that's what I've said before in the past. That I've seen so many movies that it is kind of predictable to see where some movies go, but movies can still be great even if they are predictable. It's just I've seen so many now that you kind of know the recipe, you know the mold, you know how it comes together. But obviously, with some films, the predictability can tear apart a film if it's not particularly that good and it falls apart. But I think what's really interesting about this film is that it's a film that he made when he wasn't really at the height of his career. I mean, obviously, Boogie Nights was about to come out, so this is one of his first films, and there's just a charm to it. I mean, there's there's layers of what was going to come next in his career, and throughout the sprawling almost 2 decades. By the time you get to Inherent Vice, obviously in 2014, some 18 years later, and it just I don't know, it feels like there's a trademark to his style and the way that he puts a film together. It's very much in a way like Tarantino, but different. Obviously, the Tarantino does his thing all out of sequence, and then Paul Thomas Anderson's films are pretty linear. Um, you know, to compare their works. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect by any means. It's definitely not as good. I get my words out. Not quite as good as some of his other works, but it's still good, and I enjoyed it a lot.